All right, let's dive into something I know a lot of you have been wondering about. It's one of those topics that comes up all the time, in dog parks, online forums, even family gatherings. We're talking about coprophagia.
Ah, yes. The age-old mystery of why dogs eat poop.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's one of those things that can really make you question your dog's sanity
right.
and your own,
Mhm.
trying to figure out why they're doing it. So we've got a mountain of social media posts, articles, even some research papers to dig through today.
Really get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, and hopefully give our listeners some answers and maybe even some solutions because I know it can be a really frustrating problem. I mean, I've been there myself,
Oh, for sure.
scrubbing carpets, wondering what on earth is going on in my dog's
Well,
head.
the good news is there's usually a reason behind it.
Mm.
And once we understand the reason, we can start to address the behavior.
So I was actually really surprised when I started looking into this. It turns out there's actually an evolutionary, like an instinctual component to coprophagia.
Right, it's not just some random, weird, gross thing.
Yeah, it goes back to their wolf ancestors.
Exactly. So, think about mother dogs in the wild. They would eat their puppy's poop.
Oh, to keep the den clean.
Yep, to keep the den clean and to mask the scent from predators.
Oh, that's amazing.
It was a survival tactic, basically.
Oh, wow. So it's like their version of, tidying up and protecting their family. I never thought of it that way.
It makes you look at it a little differently, right?
It totally does. So does that mean, like, to a dog, it's not actually gross? I mean, obviously they're not repulsed by it.
Well, their sense of smell is so different from ours, right?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
What might be absolutely repulsive to us might actually smell appealing to them.
They might be picking up on, like, certain undigested food particles or just different scents that we're not even aware of.
Exactly, exactly.
So, okay, so we've got this instinctual component, but beyond that, like, what else makes dogs eat poop?
Well, there are actually a lot of other potential reasons. One of the big ones is nutritional deficiencies.
Oh, really? So, like, they're not getting what they need from their regular food?
Exactly. So if a dog isn't getting all the nutrients they need from their diet, they might try to find them elsewhere.
Even if that elsewhere seems, well, pretty gross to us.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So it's important to make sure your dog is on a high-quality diet that's formulated for their age and breed and activity level.
So, how can we tell if our dog's diet is the culprit? Like, what should we be looking for?
Well, the first thing I always recommend is a visit to the vet, of course.
Yeah, always a good idea.
They can rule out any underlying medical conditions. But, there's some things you can look for at home too.
Okay, like what?
Um, like if you're feeding your dog a really low quality food or not enough food overall, that could be a sign.
That makes sense.
And, pay attention to their stool.
Yeah.
If it's frequently loose or has a really strong odor, that could indicate that they're not digesting their food properly.
So, we kind of have to become like poop detectives.
A little bit, yeah.
We're looking for clues in their diet and their digestion to see if maybe they're missing something vital.
Right. And sometimes the solution can be as simple as switching to a higher quality dog food.
Or adjusting the portion size.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got survival instincts and we've got potential dietary gaps. What other factors contribute to this behavior?
Well, believe it or not, dogs can actually learn this behavior from other dogs.
Oh, really? Like how?
Like picture a puppy, right? Watching their mom clean up after them.
Oh.
They might just think it's normal doggy behavior and start mimicking it.
Oh, so it's like their version of peer pressure.
Kinda, yeah. Or sometimes it can even be a way for dogs to get attention,
Even if it's negative attention.
even if it's negative attention.
Oh, I've definitely seen that with my own dog. They do something they know is wrong just to get a reaction out of me.
Right.
So is that what's going on with poop eating too?
It can be. Some dogs might learn that, hey, eating poop gets them a big reaction from their owners,
Even if it's yelling or chasing them away.
even if it's yelling or chasing them away.
Yeah.
And for some dogs, any attention is better than no attention.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. But it's not all mischievous fun and games, right? There are times when this could be a sign of something more serious.
Absolutely. Boredom, anxiety, even some underlying health problems can all contribute to this behavior.
So, like stress eating, but a less appealing version.
Yeah. If a dog isn't getting enough mental stimulation or physical exercise.
They might find their own entertainment, even if it's not exactly ideal.
Exactly.
Right. And sometimes it's not just boredom, but actual anxiety or stress that drives this behavior.
Yeah, it can be a coping mechanism for dogs who are feeling really overwhelmed or stressed out.
So, how do we know if it's just a boredom issue or something more like anxiety?
Well, there are some signs to watch out for. For instance, if you notice your dog only eats poop when they're left alone for a long period,
Oh,
or if it coincides with other anxious behaviors, like excessive barking or destructive chewing,
right.
those could be indicators that anxiety is playing a role.
So, it seems like there's this whole range of reasons why this might be happening, from those basic instincts we talked about to, maybe some deeper emotional stuff going on.
Yeah, exactly. And it really highlights how important it is to pay attention to our dog's behavior, even when it's not, the most pleasant thing to deal with.
Absolutely. Speaking of unpleasant behaviors, what about those dogs that eat things that aren't even food,
Oh, right.
like rocks or socks? We've gotten some listener questions about that too.
Yeah, that's called pica.
Right, pica. And that can be pretty scary, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, when your dog is trying to eat, well, just about anything.
Yeah, it can be really dangerous. And while it is a separate condition from coprophagia, sometimes they can be related.
Okay, so how are they related?
Well, for example, they could both be triggered by those nutritional deficiencies we were talking about.
Oh,
So if a dog isn't getting enough of a specific nutrient, they might try to find it anywhere they can.
even in non-food items. So is that what we were talking about with the picky eaters? Like that could actually be a sign of something more serious.
Exactly. It's not just them being finicky. There could be an underlying reason why they're not getting the nutrients they need.
Wow. So it's really important to pay attention to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
And both pica and coprophagia, they can also be linked to anxiety or boredom.
Oh, so a dog who's feeling stressed or maybe just doesn't have enough stimulation, they might engage in either of these behaviors.
Right. It's kind of a way for them to cope.
It's almost like even though these are considered bad behaviors, it's their way of communicating a need.
That's a great way to put it. It's all about trying to understand that underlying message.
Right. Okay, so we've talked a lot about why dogs might do this, but I think what our listeners really want to know is how do we stop it?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right. And I'm guessing step one is probably pretty obvious.
Yeah, poop patrol.
Poop patrol.
Pick up after your dog immediately, whether you're in your backyard or out on a walk. Just eliminate the temptation.
Out of sight, out of mind. Right.
But of course, you can't always be there to supervise every second.
Right. What about like at the dog park or if you have multiple dogs?
Well, that's where training comes in.
Okay, yeah.
You know, teaching your dog commands like leave it.
Leave it.
That can be incredibly helpful.
And I've heard a lot about positive reinforcement methods for this. Can you kind of explain what that looks like in practice?
Sure. So basically, it's about rewarding your dog for ignoring the poop instead of punishing them for eating it.
Oh, okay.
So let's say you're out for a walk and your dog starts making a beeline for a pile of,
Right.
you can say, leave it. And if they listen, you immediately reward them with a treat or praise or a toy.
So we're basically making good choices more rewarding than the bad ones.
Exactly. Punishment can actually backfire and make the behavior worse because it can create anxiety and stress.
That makes
Whereas positive reinforcement really helps build that strong bond with your dog and encourages them to trust your guidance.
So it's about working with your dog, not against them.
Exactly.
What other things can we do to manage this behavior?
Well, environmental management is key.
Okay.
So if you know your dog's a repeat offender, you really want to limit their access to feces as much as possible.
So that might mean like a fenced off area in the yard?
Yeah, a fenced-off area in the yard, keeping them on a leash during walks,
Okay.
or even muzzling them if necessary.
And I've also seen those commercially available deterrents that you sprinkle on the poop to make it taste bad. Have you ever tried those?
Yeah, I mean, they can be helpful for some dogs, but they don't always work for everyone. It's
Right.
kind of a trial and error thing.
Right.
You might have to experiment with a few different options to find what works best for your dog.
So it sounds like there's no one-size-fits-all solution. It's really about finding what works for your individual dog and their personality.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every dog is different. What works for one might not work for another. But the good news is, by understanding the different causes of coprophagia, we could start to tailor a solution to their specific needs.
Right. So To recap, we've learned that coprophagia is a pretty complex behavior with lots of potential causes,
Yeah,
from instincts to anxiety to nutritional deficiencies.
right.
And addressing it really involves a multifaceted approach. We need to manage the environment, we need to provide training, and most importantly, I think we need to really try to understand what our dogs are trying to tell us.
Right. It's like detective work. You have to gather all the clues, consider the context, and then come up with a plan that addresses the root of the issue.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to work with your veterinarian and a qualified dog trainer if you're having trouble with this.
Yeah,
They can help you figure out what's going on and create a personalized plan for your furry friend.
absolutely.
So instead of just getting grossed out, which is easy to do,
Oh, yeah.
we need to kind of take a step back and see this behavior as an opportunity to learn more about our dogs and what they need.
Exactly. It's a chance to strengthen our bond with them and help them live happier, healthier lives.
Wow. I feel like we've really gotten to the bottom of this whole poop eating thing.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
So, any parting words of wisdom for our listeners out there who are, maybe feeling a little overwhelmed or just disgusted?
I think the biggest takeaway here is that it's rarely just about the poop.
It's more than just the poop.
Right. It's really a window into your dog's world.
Oh, I like that.
It's their way of communicating their needs.
Whether it's as simple as needing a different food or, maybe something deeper is going on.
Exactly. So, to all the listeners out there who are dealing with this, challenging behavior,
Don't give up.
don't give up. There's hope. Start by really observing your dog.
Yeah, like what are their eating habits like?
Right. Are they getting enough exercise?
Enough mental stimulation.
Are there any other signs of, stress or anxiety?
And don't be afraid to reach out for help.
Yeah, your vet, a certified dog trainer.
They can be such valuable resources.
Absolutely. They can help you create a plan that really addresses the root of the problem.
And hopefully set your dog on the path to a happier, healthier, and maybe a little less smelly life.
Exactly.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. But, the conversation doesn't have to end here. We encourage you to keep learning, keep observing your dogs.
And most importantly, don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.